In Britain, we actually do arrest people for thought crimes. I know that this sounds like a meme, a joke, something that is too ridiculous to be true, but I swear to God, every single day there is a new example of it, and today's is how a retired police officer was arrested and held for 8 hours and then cautioned over a thought crime tweet, as in a tweet that wasn't in any way illegal, a tweet that wasn't inciting any violence or prejudice or anything like that, and in fact was an argument against prejudice, and the police, not being the best and brightest, seemed not to understand it actually, and decided, no, he needs to go to at least go down to the station, have his stuff rifled through, and have a record over this. And this is just preposterous. This whole thing is, you would think it would just, it's the sort of thing that just shouldn't ever happen, right? It just shouldn't ever happen. And yet, this is the reality of modern Britain. And so we're just going to go through this very in-depth report by The Telegraph, which just summarises. So this is a chap called Julian Fawkes from Kent, was handcuffed in his home by 6 police officers. If you're burgled, there's a 95% chance that that's not going to end in a conviction. If you post something on Twitter, 6 officers come to your house. But anyway, he'd spent over a decade on the force, and he was challenging someone who was pro-Palestine on the internet because he had they came to his house and they rifled through his things, and the body camera footage worn by the officers shows them scrutinizing the 71-year-old's collection of books by authors such as Douglas Murray and issues of The Spectator, pointing to what they described as, quote, very Brexity things, as if being Brexity, as in voting for Brexit, somehow makes you potentially an extremist or a terrorist. Now, this is remarkable given that, remember, Brexit was the majority opinion of the country in 2016 when we voted to leave the European Union, and the institutions, none of them wanted it. And you would think that this would be an issue for the police. They'd be like, well, it's nothing to do with us. But no, apparently, being Brexity, they've been briefed that this is somehow connected to extremism. Amazing. So we're gonna just get into the actual details of the thing, because it is just remarkable. I just want to go through each step of this, because frankly none of this should have happened. So as the Telegraph reports, his ordeal began in October 2023, the month in which Hamas terrorists carried out the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, which is correct, the October the 7th massacre. In London, pro-Palestinian marches swept the capital with cases of anti-Semitic chants and placards. All true. In fact, the police had to politely ask a couple of people who had Nazi swastikas on their placards to just leave them by the side, because that's bad optics. They were described as hate marches by Suella Braverman, and Mr. Fawkes was told by Jewish friends that they no longer felt safe travelling to London. Not an entirely unreasonable thing to feel, I would say. And so on October 30th, he was concerned to see reports of anti-Semitic mobs storming an airport in Dagestan in Russia, hunting for Jewish arrivals. The next morning, he logged onto X and saw a post from an account called Mr. Ethical, which featured a Palestinian flag and read, and here's the exchange, "Dear Suella Braverman, as someone who was on one of these hate marches, if you call me an anti-Semite, I will sue you." And Julian replied, "One step away from storming Heathrow looking for Jewish arrivals." So you can see that Julian's tweet is not anti-Semitic. He is, in fact, criticizing someone who he thinks is anti-Semitic, because there seems to have been probably a fair amount of anti-Semitism on the pro-Palestinian marches. And so what happens then? On November the 1st, without Mr. Fawkes' knowledge, the Metropolitan Police Intelligence Command referred his post to Kent Police, citing concerns around online content. Now, this, you'd think, is the part where things are starting to really go off the rails, right? The Metropolitan Police Intelligence Command were like, Kent Police, you need to look at this guy's tweets. Do they? Do they need to look at this guy's tweets? What is important about this guy's tweets? This is not in any way, incitement to violence, terrorism, hatred, or anything of the sort. And there is no charitable interpretation on their part that could make, for their interpretation, that could make it so. This is absolutely not in any way a racist or hateful or anything of the sort tweet. This is a tweet critical of those people who he thinks are racist and hateful. So this we're off the rails here now. We're in the fantasy land of moronic police who don't know what their job is actually supposed to be, because they are normally charged with maintaining order and arresting criminals, right? So their job is, this person is alleged to have committed a crime, and crimes are usually quite black and white. He has stolen something, he has stabbed someone, he has done this, he has done that, and we need to now go and lock this guy up, and then he'll be charged and he goes through the legal system. However, now our police have been charged with, in fact, interpreting morality. Philosophy is now their job. Now they have to try and understand the things that people are saying, because they are policing thought crimes and speech crimes. Well, I'm sorry, but our police are just not up to the job, and you can see this from this, right? So he was reported, of course. The Met Police it had not been reported by the public. It wasn't someone who saw the tweet, because it had just been viewed 26 times. And of the 26 people who saw it, none were like, oh, that's terrorism, I better report that as a hate crime or whatever it's supposed to be. No, they had found it themselves, as they said, the Metropolitan Police Intelligence Command, whose job appears to just be suppress the public from having and voicing opinions. Like, minor, because they don't come for me, just to be clear. They come for people who don't have any following, who can't kick up a big stink, for whom they can just slap down and that person has no recourse. There's no way that person can make a big fuss and song and dance about it. They can't make it a national issue, which is why this took 2 years to come to light, nearly. And so here we go. We've got the next day, so they flagged it, and then the next day police arrived at Falk's home. He opened the door to 6 uniformed officers as equipped with batons and pepper spray. He's 71. Like, this is mad. Even if it was just 2 police, just 2 community officers knocking and saying, excuse me, can we talk to you about this tweet? I'd be like, no, that's not acceptable. But for some reason, they came armed and with backup, just in case this guy was going to cause some trouble. So this is absolutely mental. So anyway, he said, the one at the front said, are you Julian Fawkes? And I said yes, and she replied, I'm arresting you on suspicion of offence under the Malicious Communications Act. I was totally shocked, flabbergasted. Yeah, you would be. You would be totally shocked. Because our police officers are not bright enough to interpret the philosophical intent behind people's tweets. That's not their job. That's not why they were hired. Theoretically, anyway, historically. They're hired in order to maintain the peace and arrest criminals, not decide whether a person's statement meet a completely milky and undefined threshold for being malicious communications. This is not fit for purpose. They don't know what they're doing. Now, normally, this would be like, I'm coming to kill you or something. That would be very self-evident. You don't need a degree in philosophy to interpret that, right? That's a threat. No, you don't need a degree in philosophy to interpret this. But this is so obviously not within their remit. And yet here they are on his doorstep. One officer recognised Fawkes from his time at the police and told colleagues the handcuffs were not necessary. Well, they weren't necessary anyway, because you are not dealing with someone under suspicion of a violent crime or something. It's not theft, it's not burglary, it's not robbery, it's not beating someone, it's not murdering someone. It is someone who has tweeted something. How, when the suspicion is he tweeted something, could handcuffs be necessary at all? Anyway, they didn't put him in handcuffs. Well, they did, but they took them off. So for over an hour, he watched as former colleagues carried out a Section 32 search of his home, combing through the loft, the garage, and even his wife's underwear drawer. For what? What were you looking for? He tweeted something that we misinterpreted as being anti-Semitic. Okay. So what are you looking for? Well, we'll go search his wife's underwear drawer just in case there's a swastika in there. I mean, what are we talking about? Like, what are you looking for? Officers showed particular interest in his bookshelves. Here we go. This is where we get to the thought criminal part. One called for backup to help her inspect several titles. Now, I have to be really blunt about this. I doubt these officers read. I doubt they don't. Can you come and help me? Can you come and help me identify the books on his shelves? Very Brexity things she can be heard saying on the body-worn camera footage. Picking up a Eurosceptic book on Britain's entry into the common market, she asked, what the hell is this? I mean, how thick are these people? Like, read the back of it. On the back of books, it tells you what those books are about, especially if it's a non-fiction book. It will just tell you straight up what the content of the book is. And now I realize that I'm part of a separate class of people who I guess we can consider readers, right? But what the point of that is trying to entice someone to say, look, this is the information you're going to find in this book. And so if you're looking for this information, then this is the book for you. And they're just like, no, very odd. I don't know. It's not got any pictures in it. One leaf through an edition of War on the West by Murray, while another look through the demise of the Free State by David Green, another Telegraph contributor. Well, I mean, it's quite on the nose, isn't it? Let's be fair. Like, demise of the Free State. Ooh, what's this? This looks very Brexity, says the Stasi. And of course, Mr. Fox is like, yeah, that's about the level of extremist I am. Douglas Murray and some Brexit books. In the kitchen, officers pored over cookbooks and scrutinised his wife's shopping list. Ah, yes. The pensioners are actually secretly making bombs. And they know this because they found one shopping list. Bleach, foil, gloves. This is a bit of an odd list, isn't it? Hang on a second. Stop you there. Bleach, foil, and gloves. What possible use could a person in any household need for bleach? Aluminium foil and gloves. Crazy. This person's clearly making a bomb. These aren't just common household things that pensioners would need to keep their house clean or to cook with or something like that. And then, of course, they realise, oh, wait, his wife's a hairdresser. Oh, right, that makes a lot more sense. Get hair bleach and aluminium foil for whatever reason and then gloves to do the hair. It just that makes... Then they're not stockpiling bomb-making materials. Crazy. Crazy how thick these police officers are, right? And then Fuchs was driven to Medway police station for some reason. What possible reason? Okay, now we're taking you to the police station. Booked in, fingerprinted, photographed, DNA taken. I asked what I'd done, and the officer said it was for a post of an extremism nature, quote-unquote. That's all I was told. What are we doing here, folks? Like, what is wrong with our police? They are not mentally equipped to deal with this. They are not smart enough to understand what they are doing, and they've been told to just go in, right, now you need to interpret whether this is anti-Semitic extremism or not. Obviously, what he had done is not anti-Semitic extremism, but then he was held in a cell for 8 hours before he was interviewed at 9 p.m. This guy's 71. He might have medication that he needs to take. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, he said it was only in the interview when he was finally shown a screenshot of the allegedly offensive X post that he grasped how surreal the situation had become. Yeah, and he realised, I'm sure it dawned on him, he was like, oh, God, I'm surrounded by fucking morons. We are being policed by people who are not bright enough to think, who don't read, and who don't understand what I've tweeted, and I'm in trouble for them not understanding what I have tweeted. He says this, Kent police decided to interpret my post as anti-Jewish. You absolute morons. Like, these people, if nothing else, should just feel deeply embarrassed, right, by the fact that they're thick as two short planks. Of course, it was the exact opposite. If they'd looked at the thread, they'd understood. It would have taken 2 minutes, but they didn't even pause the interview to check. And so they're sat there. I mean, if they were not complete morons, they would at least have been going red in the face and blushing and be like, right, okay, well, we're committed to this now. So we're going to carry this on. He denied 5 times that he intended to cause distress or alarm. No, he didn't. Obviously he didn't, right? He was bailed, so he had to pay a bail, and was told to return on February the 1st last year. He feared neighbours would see officers seizing his computers, iPads and phones and assume the worst, saying, I was terrified they'd think I was a paedophile. Yeah, I bet he was terrified of that, and they probably were thinking something like that. But the thing is, weirdly, if he was a paedophile, he'd just be let out of jail. He wouldn't even go to jail. It's just the way our country works for some reason. But anyway, you can imagine how this was quite a concern. I mean, they seized all of his electronic devices. For what reason? For just in case he's got more tweets? I mean, what are we doing? What is this? Right? He was worried that he wouldn't be able to go visit his daughter who lives in Australia, and I can't even imagine how much better it is out there than it is here. A caution wouldn't affect travel, but a conviction definitely would. Right. Again, conviction for what? What's he done? But anyway, after being bailed, he accepted a caution because he didn't know that he didn't feel he had any choice. It would never have gone to court, of course, in hindsight, but he probably doesn't have that much experience with courts, maybe, I don't know. But he wasn't thinking logically, because why would you be? This is mad. This is absolutely mad. So anyway, he found a solicitor, challenged the caution, and eventually got the caution deleted, which is how this article has come about. He's not some sort of multimillionaire retiree, and this has really, really bothered him. I mean, as he says, it was just so wrong. It was especially painful because I spent 10 years working with these people for no remuneration. I did it because I believed in it and I enjoyed it. I left with a certificate from the chief constable thanking me for my service, and all those memories feel trashed. Well, the thing is, right, the people that they've hired to replace you, the new generations coming up, they're moronic, and they've been essentially brainwashed into thinking anyone who is in favour of our country is a potential terrorist and is therefore a danger to other people. And they themselves are... I think they take a kind of pride in their ignorance. This is a sort of emotional security to them. This is why, like, pick up a book on the EU and then say, what's this? Very odd. Was it very odd to read books about the EU? Very odd to Brexity stuff to read Douglas Murray? My goodness. Anyway, so just in case you're wondering, if you're an American or some other foreign person who's just like, is Britain really like this? Yes, Britain is really like this. Former police will get arrested for tweets that have been misinterpreted because the police are thick, and they will spend 8 hours waiting to be interrogated. Then they'll be interrogated and cautioned over nothing.